injured or suspended or taken a break. And I'd like to see TNA get their shit together too, but I don't see that happening either. It seems to be the old saying, imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. So they, all they can do is bring back former WWE guys, which, if I was them, I'd be charting my own course and coming up with, my own brand of wrestling.
And that's what frustrates me so much about them. And, I don't have a problem with using the name Talent, but my frustration with them is that they were built basically from nothing as a pay-per-view company just to say that they had an audience. And everybody that they used, except for a handful of guys, was just young talent that was hungry. And, unfortunately, they're still billing those guys that were there 9 years ago as the young talent. And, we haven't really seen that many come in that they've groomed and grown.
Oh, yeah, that pisses you off when they do have some of those guys. Some of them are pretty good workers, like AJ Styles, some of them. But they bring in, the guys that have worn out their welcome in WWF, and they seem to push them over the AJ Styles or the Samoa Joes or whatever, and the best thing TNA could do is be a really hot alternative to, and I think Paul Heyman was on the right track a few years back, but he got kind of, I don't know what really exactly happened there until Vince bought him out or whatever, but ECW is at least on the right track where they're trying to be something new and different rather than old and recycled, And,
exactly, and that was what we need, and that's where we have to head, and somebody's got to,
That's what they need to do, and for want of a better term, you need to actually go back to the basics. You need to reestablish the wrestling, and as I said before, lest anyone think otherwise, take a look at MMA or UFC or whatever the hell. But I think that's where, if wrestling does ever have a renaissance or rise again, like some kind of a phoenix, that what they need to ultimately become is like a cross between what wrestling is right now and MMA, where it's kind of like halfway between that, where they got the apparent serious, athleticism of UFC or whatever, with some of the, the dramatic or the marketing elements of WWE, and cut back on the BS and reestablish the wrestling. But
I agree with that.
You got to kind of look yourself in the mirror and admit that you're, in need of some overhaul before you can ever do it. It's like a drug addict. Until they admit they got a problem, they're never going to get better. And I don't see that happening right now. There's too much arrogance and egotism that's obstructing objectivity.
Exactly. Oh, I have one final question for you, and it's what I ended an interview with Ivan Koloff with a few months ago. And it's kind of a silly question, but I'll ask it anyway. I think Patrick knows where I'm going with it. If you had to choose, what would you choose, CFL or NFL?
Oh. I would, just as far as entertainment, I would go with CFL. I think it's a better brand of football, but obviously the talent's, far better down in the States. But I think 3 Downs would be a lot better. And funny, I actually proposed to Vinny, gave him some ideas when they were doing the XFL a few years back. But I said the 2 biggest things that ever happened in the damned NBA was kind of on its ass, but the 2 biggest things that ever really got NBA off its ass was the 3-point basket and the 24-second clock. And I would make a 2-minute clock in the NFL where you had to score within that time, or you had to surrender the ball. And I'd say if you got a touchdown from outside the 50-yard line, it would be worth 8 points instead of 6, and at least kind of spice it up a bit, And I think, and if XFL had been an alternative to the NFL rather than just a half-assed clone, it might have survived too,
And I would think that it for all intents and purposes, it should have survived, because we are basically a football country. And
it could have. They were shooting themselves in the foot. I think they made it through the second season. I think they had the rug pulled out from them. I heard by NBC or something. I don't know what exactly, but I think if they had stayed the course for a year or two more, and I think they were shooting themselves in the foot with too many stupid, wrestling gimmicks and crap like that. But if they had stayed the course, I think they. Can you imagine what an awesome position they'd be in right now with the impending lockout? They'd have the whole field to themselves. They'd be like,
oh yeah.
And for us, as wrestling fans, we discuss football almost as much as we do wrestling sometimes. It's kind of like we would want to have something that would extend the season, give us something to continue, and that's part of the great allure of wrestling is that there is no off season.
I think Vinny was on the right track for once there. Would have, there's so many incredible football players coming out every year, and only they don't all make the NFL, but some of them come up here to the CFL. But if you could sell the product and just tweak it a bit, like I said, with maybe a 2-minute clock, or you had a few other modifications, I think it could have been, I'd say right now if they had kept the damn thing going, it would probably be in pretty good shape right now. I don't know how that arena football's going, if that's...
it's struggling. I mean, it's okay, but, it's... you got people buying company like John Bon Jovi, the rock star, just bought a team for New Jersey and all that last year, but it really doesn't...
Yeah, and I'm not a huge fan of it.
It doesn't draw, unfortunately.
Football needs to be outdoors and at least on 110 yards. I think when you try to make it like basketball or something like that, something gets lost in the shuffle. But
exactly.
at the same time, it's a shame that Vinny and them didn't, kind of. I don't know, they had a bad game plan or what, but. It's too damn bad, regardless of all else, I actually still have a fair bit of respect for Vinny. He's at least a bit of a maverick, and has the balls to try new things, and be different.
Exactly.
Some of his difference isn't what I approve of, but I still kind of applaud him at least for trying it. It's nothing else,
Exactly. Well, I can't thank you enough for spending this time with us. The great book is out now. It's called Straight from the Heart, written by Bruce Hart, produced by ECW Press. And fans can find a link to purchase it on Amazon.com and ECWPress.com on our website. And we can't thank you enough for spending this time with us.
My pleasure. Call me anytime. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. You take care, sir. I really do appreciate your time. You gave us a lot more time than we said we needed, and we appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
To the wrestling fans.
Hey, this is Road Warrior Animal, and you are listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio. Oh, what a rush.
And welcome back to the interactive interview here on WrestlingEpicenter.com. Interactive Wrestling Radio, interactive interview. I guess it depends if we have an interview that week, what the name of our show is. But regardless, we're interactive, so we'll go with that. Let's get interactive and let's start talking a little bit about the wacky and wild world of wrestling. It
is wacky and wild indeed.
Wacky.
There's a lot to talk about.
In England, they call pot wacky backy, and I think that our good friend Jeff Hardy knows a little bit too much about that. And I don't think that was his only thing. I think that was a prescription haze, but we'll get into that.
That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing it was like a sleeping pill thing.
I mean, I don't know about you guys. During Valentine's Day at my job, I had a promotion to where I was a manager, and basically it was 80-hour weeks. And I was taking pills to get me going, and then at night taking pills to shut me down. And I'm sure that if I walked to the ring when I was on the downward pill, I would have looked something like Jeff Hardy. I mean, That was a scary thing, man. For those who didn't see it, and if you haven't heard about it, where the hell have you been? Victory Road was Sunday, and here's what happened. Jeff Hardy came to the ring first, almost staggering like Raven at his worst, and walked to the ring, and if you just looked at JB and the referee's face, even when Hardy just got to the ring, they looked like they smelled something bad. You know, you could tell something was up. Hardy always can kind of look a little goofy, but you knew something was a little bit amiss. Sting came to the ring, and, you know, it just seemed very weird, and then Bischoff came out kind of with nothing really to say. I guess they were, the phrase online right now is he called an audible, basically saying, hey, he's effed up. You know, just do what you got to do to get out of this as quickly as possible. And then the match was essentially Hardy trying to figure out where to throw his shirt. Standing there bewildered as Sting approached him. Sting, I believe, gave him a potato, which in wrestling terms basically means he socked him one, and then gave him the Scorpion Death Drop, and that was it. So,
and he forced him down for the pin.
Yeah.
Well, Hardy tried to kick out of that last pin, yeah.
And Hardy just looked completely confused during the end there. And for those, and you know, the first thing that comes to mind is, well, on Impact last week, Sting only. Nick, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, okay. On Impact last week, Sting was only in the main event for a few minutes at the very end. So the natural assumption is to say, well, Sting's injured, and that's why they did it. It was to protect Sting, and the internet will then say, well, he's an old fart, yada, yada. Well, in response to that, Sting, while he's walking up the aisle to a barrage of bullshit chants, basically looks at the crowd and says twice, I agree. So it wasn't him, and it was apparently our troubled friend Jeff is back to his old tricks.
And I'll say this, I have never felt worse for a wrestler in my life than watching Sting be stuck in that situation. That's horrible to be caught in a situation like that. And I felt really, really bad for Sting. And I felt like he handled it about as well as anybody possibly could. I think he called the finish right there, and I don't blame him. But I think Sting was the one that really did the right thing that night, even though he's going to be associated with this disaster for forever. Yeah, I mean, he handled it in a way where nobody got hurt. So
yeah, especially him. You know, when you're talking about Sting, you're talking about a 52-year-old guy who has kids and has been in this business. You know, we were talking last night, Cassie and I, about who the elder statesman is that's active on this TNA roster, and I can't think of anybody who's been active longer than Sting.
Well,
I mean, Flair, I guess you could say, but other than that, Sting's the elder statesman in the entire company that's active working, and, you know, why would you put him in a situation where he could be injured by a guy who isn't taking care of himself? So how can he take care of the other guy if he can't take care of himself?
Well, here's the thing. A lot of people, one thing I'm hearing, and it seems to be the common thread, is that people seem to be assuming that they knew all day Hardy was messed up. I've heard a report saying nobody saw that he was that off until he, stumbled to the gorilla position to make his entrance.
I have to believe that's true. And here's why I have to believe that's true, because I can't believe there would be any promotion, regardless of anybody's opinion of them, positive or negative, that would send a guy out who's been effed up for 7 hours to the ring.
Well, I mean,
I have to think it was kind of like, oh, my God, what the hell happened to him?
I heard one story on a message board, and I don't know if this is true, but I heard that apparently they found him. He disappeared. Again, I don't know if this story's true. Disappeared. He was getting ready for match time. They couldn't find him, and they eventually found him sprawled out in the bathroom.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's all. I also got some email from someone claiming that the police were backstage to arrest Jeff Hardy, so we got to be careful with what we assume here.
Oh, yeah, well, there was a report going around that he was arrested right after the pay-per-view, and it turned out it wasn't true.
I don't believe
he's feeling OP.
Yeah. But,
things are looking up.
Yeah.
He's down with OPP apparently. But